what is the type of persona, how do you finalize who you want to target. So I think the first thing that even he was talking about was the ICP bit, and then there are a lot of nuances in it where when you are trying to say finalize the personas that you want to target, right? You also understand a little bit more about that particular persona in terms of not only the pain point, but the challenges, the priorities, the KPIs that they might have, even the aspirations. So you kind of know that, right? The type of content that you'll automatically start creating will be targeting that type of user. So that is something that we have tried, and it's kind of helped us. But apart from that, today the idea was that I'll be showing demand gen, mainly ABM, but remember ABM is not for startups typically. That's what a lot of people say, right? I would partially agree to that as well, and I'll be taking you through this. Please. Okay. Cool. So, but the idea was that we'll show, like, we'll be discussing about target demand gen and how this can be done as a hack, which is kind of similar to ABM and can help us actually right now. Okay, so before I start, I just wanted to quickly understand because there's a lot of confusion about demand gen, right? So, what do you think it is? Is it lead gen? Is it performance marketing? Is it full funnel marketing, funnel optimization? But typically, demand gen is like, this is a lot of noise here. But if you see, typically it starts from attracting strangers, and then it goes all the way to all the way to even getting advocates or increasing wallet share of your existing customers. Okay, there's a lot of material here, but I'll be discussing this later, so don't worry about it. But typically, all this is demand gen. So when I get hired as a demand gen head or like a marketer, right, it's more about not only using a specific channel that is performance ads or something else, but it is like to do with all this. Okay. So okay, I can see that. So now this is something that is very interesting, right? So just to define demand gen, it's all about demand capture and demand creation. Okay. So when we discuss demand capture, right, it is for the 5% in-market audience that is there. So this is again like through a particular LinkedIn survey that was done long back, where typically 5 to 8% audience is always in the market to buy a particular SaaS product, right? And then the 95% is something that is not there. But the idea is to create some sort of a demand for them, so that they understand, oh, this is something as a problem that we might have, and this is something that they might need to solve. So you're basically trying to create a need, and then you're trying to give them a solution as well for the problem that they need to solve. Okay. This is what typically an ABM ecosystem looks like. It might not be actually useful for all of you, but I don't know if it's visible properly, but yeah. So the top part, right? So it's more like a reverse funnel is what I call it. But for you, this is the SMB and the commercial is something that we'll be focusing on. This is ABM.
ABM means what?
Oh, sorry. ABM is account-based marketing. Okay, that was the most basic I missed out. So it's like typically, like imagine I had my own startup, by the way. So the first thing that I would try to do is like get either like 10 or 20 customers who would then I would like try to create case studies of and then market that to get another 50 customers, right? But in terms of a startup, like when you are a founder and you're very young, no one will entertain you, right? I didn't even have a mustache or beard.
The age doesn't matter.
So that was the thing I faced that time, and I used to get asked all the time that are you out of college or did you drop out or something? But anyway, the strategic bit is the most important bit because that's where there's an investment and there's a great value as well. Okay, typically the strategic or enterprise accounts are more than 100,000 or 120,000 thousand in dollars overall in deal sizes. The mid-market one is what a lot of SaaS companies start focusing. If you're using Sprinto, right? I think ideally you're trying to reach out to mid-market or enterprise type of companies. So here the angle is more about getting companies which have around an ACV of $25,000 to $35,000. And SMB or commercial typically would be $5,000 to $30,000.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like how you target different segments of customers and what's your plan? That's ABM.
Correct. Yeah.
The revenue numbers you're talking about here in India?
This is US actually. But again, India, again, you don't have to follow these numbers. It can be different for different vertical guys. Okay. Like for example, Sprinto, right? Our average is around $7,000 to $8,000 ACV. Average contract value, by the way. Okay. But like in Clevertap, it was around 40,000 for mid market. At Sprinto, it is just 20,000 for mid market. So it can be like you can define your own mid market or SMB or commercial type of customers. Okay. So this is where you will have to use a lot of tech, a lot of automation, a lot of AI maybe, and that's where I think we will be talking about this today. So if you see, right, this is how most of the companies run their ABM. They have some sort of, again, I've written intent based, but typically it's just ads which are running, and then they're like, you get inbound leads, there's a form fill, and then eventually, there is an SDR drip campaign that goes on to get a meeting or a demo request, and then there is a conversion that happens probably after that, right? But for 95%, if you want to create that problem or that awareness, and you want to, create that demand, this is how you typically do it. All of this has to be in tandem. So this can't be like, okay, I'll do ads first, which is very expensive for most of us, and then probably I'll do SDR. But like again, when you do the air cover ads, right, it can be anything. Like what Kavan was talking about, for example. What I kind of call this is more like a dialogue opener. It can be a podcast. It can be, sorry guys, I'm cold, okay? So it can be like a podcast. It can be a social dinner. It can be an FGD, that is focus group discussion. It can be a lot of other things, okay? So in fact, like for startups, right, it's very easy because what you can do is, imagine now, if you do not have budget, like at Clevertap, you used to spend almost $15,000 to $20,000 for dinners. The idea was that this we would do in Q1 or Q2. We would get at least 15 to 20 people in a very fancy restaurant. I was managing Meta as a region, so that time it would be like a Burj Khalifa view, and you're sitting in a setting where there's a 4 or 5 course meal, and you're enjoying, and they have experience, right? And then that was being used as a talking point by the sales guys. But if you want to do this, right, imagine now a typical way of how an Indian founder can do this. Like you try to find a nice restaurant, it does not have to be fancy, but there needs to be a good setting, like the ambience should be good, where you can at least talk, soft music. You call your top 5 or 6 people and you start your discussion. The idea is not to record it, like how that Gary guy does. That is just get the problem understanding first, maybe you can use it as a playbook later, or maybe you can create some sort of a content later, but you don't have to mention names of the people or the actual problems, right? Now once you get that, imagine the type of discussions that can happen later, and that would be at a very low cost. For US also right now, we spend only $1,000, like compared to what we used to spend at Sprinto. For $1,000, we get like 15 or 20 customers in a place called Redbird, for example, in LA. So that still works for us. But in India, imagine if you can get per person, if you spend at least like 500 or 1,000 rupees, and you get a good setting for 10,000, you can still get 10 people and still have your pipeline for the type of accounts you want.
Are these decision makers you get, or are these the other people in the committee?
So again, this is something that I used to do like 2-3 years back. I used to always target decision makers first, but now things are changing. So when you talk about decision making committee, right, that is a thing that I focus on right now, because a lot of influencers and researchers are the ones who kind of become your gate openers or champions in that particular organization, right? So it's a mix typically, but the idea is like if you are spending a lot of money, you will need to get decision makers typically, because that's the fastest way to expedite your sales cycle. At Netcode, what we did was we created a small room. We converted a small room into a mini theater, and the seats and the chairs and the decoration was such that people who actually feel that they're going to see something exciting. But what I would show them is the product demo in a very fancy way. And what different we did was, so as I said, right, the verticals are the most important things, right? Most important aspect. So I finalized on 4 different verticals: BFSI, e-commerce, travel, and there was one more. And I created journeys for that. There were different journeys, and then we would just call people. And the best part was of calling people to the experience center. they would get to meet. First of all, the entire decision making committee would be invited. Okay, imagine the CMO is coming, the senior manager is coming who's going to probably execute. Then some researcher, then there's someone else. So almost 4-5 people from that particular company, the prospect company, and they would get to meet all my founders as well, the CEO, the CTO, the CMO, right? So for them, for some actually, that's the experience as well. That, hey, you know what? Like so many people from the CXO level were there to greet me when I entered Netcore. So that was a different experience that we tried to create. We converted around 15 customers out of 45, and it took almost 3 to 4 months for that. And these are all enterprise deals, most of them, like HDFC Bank or maybe Reliance Securities that time. So some of them were like that. So something like this can be done, but if you do not have an office space, you can create an experience page, which we are creating now. How that works is typically, right? See, for example, your typical marketing says that you have to go through a particular funnel, the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel, right? But if you want, like at the end of the day, I'm a marketer, like I'm an employee, you guys are the founders, right? But like I'll always have that thing from my bosses that boss, we need numbers every month. You need to get your quarterly KPI sorted in terms of numbers. So how do I do it smartly? And it can help also a lot of us. Imagine your top of the funnel, middle and bottom is all on one page in a proper story flow, right? So when someone enters that page, starts with a very beautiful introductory video, like what I really liked his presentation, guys. He had, when he started off, you must have seen that GIF or video that was playing, right? Imagine someone comes to your page like that. You go like 30-40 second introductory video. It's not pitching your product, it's just giving the experience your product is going to give the prospect customer. Then you scroll down, it gives some sort of social proof that you have some G2 badging, or maybe you have Sprinto's SOC 2 compliance with you. So apart from that, you have you go down, there are case studies, there are FAQs, or there are some calculators that people can use. Then you further go down, there are again blogs which can be kind of related to the type of experience that you want to have. So everything is there on that one page, and very subtly, we don't actually try to put schedule a demo now or get started now. The way we do it is through chatbots. So typically we scroll down, right? The users scroll down. After say maybe 30 seconds or maybe 50% of the scroll is done, there would be a chat pop-up that would actually say, hey, are you enjoying this? Would you like to talk to someone? Or is this what you're looking for? Did you find something? So the idea is not to pitch at all on that page. And that's even when we do this, right, the yellow one, that's the concept there. We don't want to pitch, right? So once you try to do this, right, and you're not a very salesy type of a person where you're trying to pitch every time, it works for you. Yeah.
You're saying you don't want to pitch, but you mentioned that 15 to 30 second video of product experience. That's basically pitching, right?
It's not an experience video. That's just an experience video. It's like, how do I tell you? If you've seen Apple videos, right? Apple is like very, a lot of people just keep discussing about it. But you go to a particular, like imagine if you're going to IMAX Wadala. You've been to IMAX Wadala, right? They play that IMAX video when before the movie. It's like always there. It shows the 3D, the way the 3D works actually at IMAX. And you're like crazy. This is what you're gonna get to watch when you're watching a movie, right? So it's like a precursor to the movie, right? That this is the level of 3D that you're gonna see. So imagine you have to create a video like that. So it should not be a product. So for example, you have to create something, right? Create a concept video. For example, for a company like CleverTap or something in MarTech, right? Sprinto is very difficult to discuss here. But like something like a marketing technology, where imagine you place a video which just shows all the different types of journeys and noise and how that particular user has just gone through this journey and now he's at he's at Zen moment or something in that video.
Yeah, the user story basically.
Yeah, in a way.
I would just add one thing is that one other thing that happens is that most of the time we get so obsessed with our own product that we just want to talk about that only. I think we have to shift that focus to the customer and their own problem. And I think links back to what he's talking about, that if that video connects with that customer's problem, then it creates that immediate connect, and then they would be willing to scroll down and kind of follow further in the funnel.
Correct. So yeah, so while all this is being done, right, it's also important that your outbound is going on. So, and that's why in a different setting, typically there is a sales like development representative who's trying to reach out with a very customized, hyper-personalized, targeted email that is going out. And parallelly, there's an air cover going on, which can be your top of the funnel, which is maybe the experience page, can be like a dialogue opener. Or maybe your case studies can be your middle of the funnel. And then later, probably the idea is to, of course, book a meeting. But you don't do that. Like we don't do that in marketing. So you don't have to do it. You have to have like someone else to get you meetings. But this is like a sample example user journey overall, okay, for account-based marketing. So I'll explain you quickly. So at the top you see email drip campaign, which is your starting, say your outbound SDR team is sending the email campaign. But parallelly, you have to have a social ad cover or some sort of an ad cover, or it can be an mass email cover as well. Or maybe your webinars or podcast, that you do, typically, right? This is where typically marketing stops. But like once we get a demo, we get a pipeline. Typically, pipeline is a goal. But as a founder, probably you'll have to do the retargeting, follow-ups, probably even increase the wallet share. But this is what typically like a typical journey looks like. So how do you like come up with the messaging? Now this is very important. So typically everyone has joined, right? I would just tell them the process because I have this playbook. I've been doing this for the last 4 or 5 years. But the most important thing is the messaging. The idea is when you're trying to target account, like you're trying to do this account-based marketing, right? It's not about like what even Kavan was saying, right? It's about creating hyper-personalized messages to all the type of users that you're trying to reach out. Okay. So I have a few examples of how we were trying to create it. So this is a Clever Tap example. So if I'm targeting, say, CBOs, CMOs, CEOs, I would try to understand just some questions, okay? Like how fast can this entire thing be set up and we can go live? Then is there a support? Is it like intelligent in terms of doing my personalization? Does it really help in terms of automating stuff, right? So this is something for me to understand and like stalk that particular persona. There are a few more examples. This is for technical state. So this is when you've done a demo. Now you are meeting their product people or IT people, right? Sorry, I'm just getting so many calls. And this time, yeah. So here the idea would be like, is there integration available? Is it like 24/5 type of a support? This is like, typically US has that type of a thing. But like this is something that you might want to talk about with these users. Like Sprinto does that. In fact, I'll show you a few ads where the entire ad is about integrations, like 200 plus integrations, and we've created a page out of it. Okay, this is a financial stake as well. Like here, the issue is typically capex versus opex, or maybe CLTV. Like how soon will I be able to get my money back if I'm investing in this particular product? So apart from that, of course, all these things. So these things are really important when you're trying to reach out. Don't just reach out to the primary persona, but create a plan for all these personas as well. This is like just a very basic sample example of brainstorming that we did at Sprinto. So all the people that I was doing this with were very junior, and trust me, they came up with a very good brainstorming sheet for you. So typically, like a lot of people ask me this also, like why challenges and pain is different, kind of same, right? But what I consider pain is more like an emotion. You're able to target the emotion, you will get a very good clickbait in terms of an ad or a page that you're trying to create. Okay, so like for example, for Sprinto, the target persona is a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. Then the compliance head, compliance managers. What we do at Sprinto, I'll just quickly tell you so that you understand all this later, right? So Sprinto is a compliance automation platform. What it does is typically, say for example, you want to get SOC 2 certified. You want that framework to be there so that you maybe can reach like a mid-market or an enterprise audience outside of India. Maybe if you want to grow in US or EU, right? You probably might need SOC 2 or ISO 27017 or others which are there. So that's why Sprinto comes in. It automates this entire process for a CISO. Typically, there's a lot of manual work. There are a lot of these Excel sheets that they have to maintain. A lot of evidence collection has to be done during audit and all that stuff, right? Typical process takes 6 months. With a tool like Sprinto, it takes only 1 to 2 months. Plus, it's like almost like half, not even half, but it's like 0.10% of the cost of what you typically spend to get a SOC 2. might spend $100,000 with a platform like this, maybe $15,000, $10,000. Okay. So now when you target this, right, and it's a very interesting persona, okay, if you have to see this. Now look at the challenges. The way we started doing is, like, of course, they have to avoid incidents. Like, the primary job of a CISO is to secure the data. If there is any incident, his job is gone, of course, but even the reputation goes, right? So these are the things that we started jotting down. If you come here, right, this is something I love to target, most of the personas with. Like, what's the aspiration? Because here, not a lot of people are motivated to perform at work, but they're motivated to perform for themselves. So imagine if you tap in this part, right? Like, for a CISO, no one asks them very important questions about business, because typically it's very difficult to measure the impact of security. How do you measure impact of security, right? So getting a seat at the table, at the board, if people are asking them questions, or maybe contributing to revenue in some way. So this can be something that is like very important for them. So based on that, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is just one sample again. So I took like visibility and trust as a bucket of all the pain points, and now there are these pain points that I was trying to target, like tools. So I want a direct action. So here I'm not targeted aspirations, but for example, they don't have a 360-degree visibility. Building trust across stakeholders and board, cross team not following the protocols. So typically, imagine I'm a CISO and I want the marketing guy to follow the protocols. That is, when they are getting a vendor, they make sure that everything is secure, or the API is a proper, or even the vendor is a SOC 2 certified vendor. And this is a big problem in information security type of SaaS startups, because if you see, right, we all get, like, if you have like employees, they'll get their own vendors, they'll start doing, but they're transferring so much data, which is like customer data. If you're SOC 2 certified already, you can't do that. So this is where all this like becomes very important. And these are some ads that we've created now. Again, the ads kind of look like this. Okay, so I'll just give you an example here. So trust was a major factor, right? So this actually talks in a lot of ways. These are just ads, but I'll also tell you about the type of webinars or podcasts we are running. So imagine like trust begins with transparency, and you're doing this. Then there is this one about integration, right? For a webinar, we started a series called Champions of Trust. Sorry, a mixer, we started a series called Champions of Trust. So we're calling like 20 people, and we basically just discuss. There's no agenda, just meet up and people talk. Then there is one more setup where we get a CISO, a salesperson, a CEO, and now we have a conversation. And the conversations are so interesting because they randomly go on talking about so many problems, and it becomes a bit controversial also at times, because the sales guy might not find what a CISO is doing interesting, right? And then these guys are justifying it. Then you understand, the way how the entire board thinks about CISOs, and that helps us create content to target them. So this is something like that we created and kind of like work for us overall. So don't do ABM if your AC is typically less than $5,000. If there is a way to do it, like the SMB commercial bit that I spoke about, right? That is something that I'll be showing. And if you need results fast, suppose ABM does not work fast, like this is something that I faced at Sprinto as well. I joined and chalo ABM karte hai, let's do ABM, and we are not seeing any results. Right? It's been like 2 months, no results. Look, come on, this is gonna take time for ABM, because we were targeting only 150 accounts, very narrow base. This is something that we also use as a playbook, that is interview sessions. So we did not create a page. What we instead I wanted to make sure that it's a proof of concept that might work, right? So I would actually reach out to the CISOs and tell them that, I'm very new to this industry. I'm from MarTech. I've worked in MarTech for more than 13-14 years, and I just want to know more about security. Would you like to chat for 15-20 minutes? Give me your insights, your experience. And they would actually love to just help me out. Yeah. Now, once I get to know them, right, it was just a dialogue opener, guys. That would actually put them in my funnel to target them further, and the sales guys would do my job actually. So at least it would help me. But my end pitch was like, I'm trying to create this top 50 CISO list in the US. And you're gonna, if you're okay with an interview session, like a proper produced interview, we'll put you there on that page. Now again, a community like CISO is very small. Like marketers are typically known to be very glamorous, right? But a lot of people do not know about CISOs or what they do. So imagine they getting some limelight, kind of helps. So now the alternative is typically not spray and pray. So that's where we start doing target demand gen, right? So first thing is like creating the solid ICP, of course. Without this you can't do. But again, a lot of people do mistakes. Like, how do you typically create ICP, if I might ask? Right now, how do you create it? Typically, also what happens is when you get these, you get your list from Apollo or ZoomInfo. A lot of people miss out. They start targeting now through ads, emails. And you'll see a lot of competitors opening, a lot of partner companies opening. That's not even relevant for you. You'll end up spending a lot of money. So your time list has to be without, like, you'll have to do the filtering. There's another thing which is very important. I forgot to mention it here. That is pre-account scoring. In fact, I have that sheet as well, which is a very different sheet that we manually created for Sprinto particularly. But I'll give you some idea about it. So there are 3 rounds of filtering in it. Round 1 is where you actually choose, the generic details about the type of vertical you want to go for. The type of maybe like how many CISOs should be there, or what's the formation here. So what is the recency of funding? So all that stuff, of course. But the second part is where you want to understand now the predictability to buy, or maybe if I reach out to this particular company, the chances of them responding will be higher, right? That's where we start understanding the actual team sizes, the org structure, a lot of other details like how many, like for example for Sprinto, we try to understand what type of frameworks do these guys have. Do they have SOC 2? Do they have ISO? If not ISO, can I target them with ISO? How many of them are using competitors? And luckily for our industry, this is very new actually. Something like a CAT, it's called Compliance Automation Technology that we have, right? Very new, so only 5% market has been captured. So the rest still use consultants, other type of auditors which are there in the market, or like companies like KPMG, Deloitte and all. So there's a huge market for us to tap at least. That's why it grew also so fast, right? Now this is where it becomes important. If you're able to map all this, right, before reaching out, then you don't waste a lot of time. Then your chances of actually getting the response will be higher, and you'll have to spend a lot of time here, boss. Because if you think the timeless is like 6,000 to manually filter, or there's no technology to filter them out. Of course, you can use AI and maybe some programmatic method. But you have to do some manual intervention where you try to look at which companies might really work for you, and you create your initial list of 1,000 accounts. Once you're done with that, right, you start targeting now. Now this is where these are just some examples. By the way, when I joined, we were not doing this. I don't know why. This is where you actually save a lot of money. Okay. So one is if you want to optimize, or if you want to do Google Ads, which a lot of people know or think is very expensive. It is very expensive if you're targeting US as a market, but the cost will be different for different markets, right? First thing is to do a custom audience target campaign. Okay. How many of are you guys doing this already?
Yeah.
Right? Perfect. So then there's a lookalike audience. Now, if you already have more than maybe 500 customers, or maybe a pipeline of 4x, that is like 5,000 maybe SQLs or leads, you already have a lookalike audience. I mean, at least the good fit ones are lookalike audience. Create a lookalike audience as well, right? Apart from that, a lot of things are now newly added in Google as well. This was already there, but now it's like better. That is, you can actually choose the employee size of the company. Like, go to create campaign, like I can tell you all that, but create campaign, and then in audiences there's a browse option where you can actually choose the employee size. This helps us actually, but a lot of companies, if you want to target typically not only through employee size, but maybe the interest, the affinity overall, it's something that you can do. Now, when we are doing target demand gen, I can't go hyper personalized at a user level, but I go at a cluster level. So when I create clusters, that is something I missed again, putting it here. But typically, if you're trying to create demand gen, target demand gen, right, you can't target users. So you try to create clusters now. So the cluster can be of what I was showing you: pain points, KPIs, priorities, vertical geographies, a lot of those things. Okay, now these are of course the dialogue opening initiatives. So this is the same part where I was talking about how you create the problem, you create a need for that particular problem, and then you provide the solution. Okay. Now these are some milestones. This is a very good thing because this is what I created for my boss, and this is an actual for Sprinto. did not put the numbers, but you can like imagine this is how it typically works. So for example, I have a list of 6,000 TAM accounts for US market, and typically with this calculation, right, kind of converts at least 60 very good quality leads, SQLs, in fact. And this is kind of in 3 months, guys. So it's a very cost-effective process, but it kind of helps me get really good quality leads. And the best part is the ratio of SQL to the conversion rate, close one, is almost 70 to 75%. So that is how it has helped us. But if you can see, the idea here is because here what you're trying to do is you're trying to warm up a list of accounts that you already have. So it's not like if someone asks you, or the idea is when you're doing this targeted demand gen, right? The concept is not to have convergence as a primary goal. The concept would be that you go step by step. First thing is if you have 6,000 accounts, how many do you warm up? Which even he mentioned actually. That was a very good angle. So, for example, a typical ratio is 5 to 7% is something that you can warm up every month, which is almost like 20% in 3 months, right? So that's where this calculation comes in. And then there is a pre-scoring that we did. Now there will be an engagement scoring also, which is very important again. So the type of touches that you're getting, be it a webinar, be it a product demo series, be it say a mixer, where are these guys actually more interactive, right? You actually give points to those particular things. So this one is a very simple one, where the engagement scoring is based on the number of touch points they have connected. So if it's more than one, I give 10 points, like that. And eventually all this is automated in a particular tool later. Okay, so 100% decision making committee reached. Again, a lot of people, they kind of lose hope the moment there is a no. You reach out to their founders or CEOs or whoever, like when, I used to do this, right? As I was 21, no one would say anything to me that time. So I would just reach out to everyone, tell them also, this is, I would be very salesperson like. So the idea was just to get the deal anyhow. So we would actually sit for 2 hours also in the office just to get that done, but that is not a very right approach. The thing is, that's why like after 6 years I had to shut it down. But anyways, the idea is like you reach to the entire decision making committee, build relationships, of course. And this is something that I asked a sales guy, by the way, a very interesting thing. He was my counterpart for Meta region. So I asked him like, how do you actually, like get your deals, right? He was the one who would actually get 120% of his deals done every quarter. I'm like, wow, man. And Dubai is not a market where you actually have a lot of SaaS companies. There's a limited pool. So how would you target now? So he would tell me that one thing is like you have to be always available. So I would ask him, how are you always available? So he's like, I'm always available. And then there are certain ways for it, of course, the tools that we use. The other thing is he actually believes in building genuine relationships. Like I remember a deal where he was trying to crack, which was Shahid. I don't know if you guys know it, but it's more like OTT, how we have Netflix now. So it is like that there. He actually spent 3 months. He would call that person to swim in his particular area. You take him out. You would not discuss work at all. You would just talk to him. You would actually tell his sob stories also. This is what I'm going through. I'm trying to find a girl and all that. So imagine that type of emotional bond that he built with the prospect. Kind of helped him somewhere. And it was like the way it worked out is that guy actually started talking. Yeah, you know what? We are not doing this deal with you guys because for so many years you've been not giving us this particular feature. And then, this was a feedback you could have given me like day one, right? It would have helped us. But anyway, so that is how it typically helps. And then, of course, now again, this is very important, beta. So a lot of people do when we do marketing, right? You show one piece of, say, whatever content you've created. Very important to understand, has that one person checked out all the entire funnel content that you have created? If yes, and they're not converting, then you start asking questions now. You actually call them, you meet them, to understand why they're not still converting, right? Maybe not an ICP fit, but there can be so many other reasons. Okay? And then there is, of course, now this is more like that calculation which I was talking about. So once you start getting these milestones, this will happen automatically. Where 20% of your warmed up accounts will respond positively to your outreach. Okay, 25% respondents will actually book meetings. And then 30% of the meetings will convert to a demo. After demo, I've not mentioned here, but typically for Sprinto, it is more than 80%, 75-80%. So yeah.